guys, and welcome back to A Taste for Life. I know it has been quite a while since I touched this page, and I just want to start with a little update about that. So to begin with, I kind of separated myself from this page very unintentionally. I think it was more just a result of recovery going really well, which meant that I was back at my full-time job and I was seeing my friends a lot more. I was going out a lot more. And the process of editing videos is very timely. And the videos I was making were very simplistic, but it was a matter of sorting through all the footage I had and trying to condense it and then trying to make it cohesive. And it just took a lot of time. And the thought of that editing process was daunting in itself, which is also why you might notice this is a very different kind of video. It's a lot less effort. So basically, I'm just standing here with a microphone and very casual. Hopefully, I can keep it really casual so there's much less editing. The way I'm videoing, the orientation is a different position, which means that I won't need to try and fill in the blank borders to the side. All of this is very irrelevant information, but just to explain, I want to try to keep my videos a little bit more simple so that I can focus more on the content itself. But that's basically why I took a break from A Taste for Life. It wasn't anything personal about the page that I wasn't appreciating. I still have so much more that I want to share about eating disorders and my thoughts around the recovery process and all the things behind it. But I really need to rethink the way I'm going to do it, and this is my next best thing. So bear with me as I continue forward with videos in a much more simplistic manner. So you probably would have picked up on the fact that I said to begin with, that's why I separated from the page. And it really was. For most of the months that I haven't been active on this account, it was just because I was kind of getting a taste for my life back, essentially. And as much as I wanted to be active on that page, I really did want to immerse myself back into life for a bit as well. So that's kind of what I did, but I still have so much more I want to say, and I think I'm actually in a better place to talk about some of the things that I wanted to, so that's why I'm starting back up again. I need to clarify though, the last few months I did have intentions of coming back to the page, and I think I did even make a post a few months ago saying that I was going to be more active in the space, but that I just needed to do it in a more sporadic manner, which was my intention. But I did have a setback, and that setback is sort of acting as the catalyst for this video. So without getting too detailed around the specifics and stuff like that, the recent setback that I experienced was something that I didn't expect. So going into the recovery process last year when I started the Taste for Life account, I was very detail oriented with the way that I wanted to structure things. And I had a few strategies up my sleeve knowing that setbacks would occur. Like, it's just one of those things in recovery. You can expect setbacks here and there. And I kind of wanted to plan in place preemptively to get myself out of those situations as quickly as possible. So I had developed a few plans around what I would do if, for instance, I started getting really intrusive thoughts. I had plans in place for what I would do when I needed to respond to extreme weight gain, extreme in the context of recovery, not in general terms, And I just had a few things in place that could kind of really pick me up in those setbacks. And they were very useful strategies to have because, as predicted, during my recovery process, I did have a few of these little hiccups along the way, and I was able to have a very quick turnaround because I feel like I had thought about these things and even planned for these things ahead of time. But the most recent setback that I had, which began a couple months ago, was something that I did not account for and did not ever expect happening. So essentially what happened was a few months ago, I started getting into a very bad sleeping pattern. That's not totally uncommon for me. It's something that I was experiencing even back when I was inpatient in hospital, it would always be brought to my attention by the team that my sleeping is very poor. And at the time, I very rightfully brought it down to the fact that I was in such an uncomfortable and unfamiliar environment. And I don't take away from that. I think that was a big contributing factor when these things were happening in the hospital. But now that I'm home and I'm comfortable, I mean, everyone deals with life stress, so it could be a bit of that. But for some reason, whatever it was, I was in very poor sleeping habits. And it turned into a situation where it was a few sleepless nights, but eventually became like an insomnia where I didn't get more than 3 to 4 hours on good nights for about a 14-day period. This drained me mentally, it drained me physically, and it brought up a lot of complications. It got to a point where I could not walk myself from the table to my bed. I was laying down all day. I couldn't do anything. It was a very, very hard to deal with moment in life. But it also very much impacted my appetite. And I don't mean from an eating disorder standpoint. I don't mean that I was so tired, all these intrusive thoughts came back and I wasn't strong enough to fight it or whatever. I mean from a very physical perspective. When you go that long without sleep, you can feel your body slow down. Everything was so slow. I feel like I was breathing very slowly. I feel like my heart rate would have dropped. My blood pressure would have dropped. And it also led to a very real loss of appetite. So because of this loss of appetite, I was unable to stick to any sort of meal plan. Now, I'm not going to lie, a few weeks before this even began, I was beginning to struggle a little bit with my intake. And that did also, side note, sorry if you can hear shaking and rattling. My dog just walked into the room and is like walking around and shaking about. So I'm sorry. Please try to ignore. As I was saying, my intake wasn't as good as I know it should have been a couple weeks prior to this even beginning. So when I lost my appetite in those few weeks of getting very little sleep, it was very dramatic. I lost quite a bit of weight and it took a toll on me physically. It was after those 14 days where my sleep started to normalize that I noticed my appetite was not following that same pattern. It did not begin to normalize. And usually one of the first strategies that I implement when I'm starting to slip in my food is going, okay, what is it that you feel like? Stick with that. Like, don't have any rules around it. Just whatever you feel like, go with that. Because at least you're going to enjoy the flavor. If you're not going to enjoy the sensation of eating and everything around it, then the minimal thing that I can do here is just have things that I like and that I feel like in that moment. But the tricky part about this was that I didn't feel like anything in particular. Even the things that I usually kind of go back to as a very safe option of what I feel like, and not safe in the way of like caloric intake or anything like that. Just safe that I know the flavor, I like the flavor sort of thing. Even those were not appealing to me. So it was hard to make any food choice whatsoever for at least the first couple of weeks following that bad period of time. Now, the complication with that is because I was already finding it hard to make natural food choices, and because I didn't have the best appetite, and because I had just lost a little bit of weight because of all the physical things that were happening when I wasn't getting adequate sleep, the eating disorder did flare up. I'm not going to lie, that did become an eventual factor in things. Just because I really didn't feel like anything, the eating disorder eventually started to play into that. So even after the few weeks where I was trying to figure out what exactly it is that I wanted, there was a period where I know I wasn't having what I needed to be having. So for a while I've been stuck in that, but recently I have been working on that. My diet is improving. I'm still in kind of the earlier phases of phases of resetting myself, but I am doing better in that regard now, which is great. But I say it's the catalyst for this video because I really want to put out a few things that are so vital to resetting yourself or even beginning the recovery process. I think there is a few things that people don't know or don't necessarily understand that can be a danger if you don't have any knowledge around and just are blindly starting recovery. So I want to share a few of them with you here today.